I think it's one of those things that just, it doesn't fade out of memory.
Years after seeing Larry Nassar in the courtroom, that image remains vivid for Rachael Denhollander. She was one of the first people to publicly accuse Nassar. Denhollander said Nassar abused her multiple times starting at age 15, all under the guise of medical care.
What we see happening with the Nassar case is really what's happening all over the country, but blown up. It's like peeling an onion. I feel like at every layer, you're finding corruption.
That's exactly what ESPN reporters John Barr and Dan Murphy uncovered in their book, Start by Believing.
One of the things we tried to detail was just the abusive culture of gymnastics, not just at the club level, but at the elite level as well. And it was in that setting that Larry Nassar emerged as the good cop. And so that's one of the ways he was able to manipulate and groom his victims.
In their investigation, Murphy and Barr revealed former USA Gymnastics president and CEO Steve Penny could have stopped Nassar's abuse in 2015, about a year before the first victims went public. They obtained emails and documents that show Penny had detailed notes about allegations from former star gymnast Michaela Maroney. Penny alerted the FBI, but rather than warn the public about Nassar, he elected to stay quiet.
We were able to uncover some emails where those conversations happened. And as a result of that, as this FBI investigation was very slowly working its way around the country and through some different rings of bureaucracy, Larry Nassar continued to see patients, and dozens of women from that time, dozens of girls, really, they're too young to call them women, say they were sexually abused.
There are 265 known survivors of Larry Nassar's abuse. Their stories were part of the larger Me Too movement. Now that initial wave of allegations has come to light, has anything changed?
I think we're starting to have the discussions that we need to have, and I'm really grateful for that. I don't think we have really reached much of a place, of making change yet.
Specifically in the gymnastics world, there are some reforms. The Safe Sport policy was created to give athletes a resource to report abuse. It also included a code of conduct and mandates for coaches to follow. For instance, an adult cannot be alone with a minor athlete unless there is another adult in the room to observe or interrupt. But as Barr and Murphy found out, even that rule has its shortcomings.
For example, with written permission, a coach can be alone with a minor while traveling to a competition. And one of the things we learned is just how effectively Larry Nassar was able to groom parents and victimize them as much as the young women he sexually assaulted. So there are people who feel like, the rules aren't enough. And Safe Sport, the organization set up to field abuse complaints, by its own admission, is overwhelmed.
If you broaden the scope, a report from Yale University found, in general, more women are reporting their claims as a result of the Me Too movement. However, the study notes that doesn't mean cases will be prosecuted and the accused convicted.
Many victims are silenced because by the time they're ready to disclose and they're healed enough from the trauma, the doors of the justice system are closed to them because of archaic evidentiary codes and statutes of limitations. So we have legislative work that needs to be done.
As for Rachael Denhollander, she's using her own experience to help others. She's now an advocate for sexual assault survivors.
I'm not dependent on how my abuser responds, whether or not he ever admits what he did. Or is sorry. I'm not dependent on the validation of 12 members of a jury. I know what's true. I can hold to what's true. And that means you can grieve the damage and you can grieve the loss in ways that are non-destructive. And learning to grieve in a way that is non-destructive really is the first step.